Mitt Romney wins the Iowa caucus by just 8 votes as Rick Santorum surges to the top of the pack. And focus turns back to Europe as Italy's biggest bank, UniCredit, will sell 7.5 billion euros worth of shares at a 43% discount at Tuesday's closing price as it desperately tries to raise cash. U.S. futures are flat headed into the open. I'm Alex Steele, and the morning call starts right now.
Good morning, I'm Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer of T3Live.com.
And I'm Alex Steele with The Street, and together we bring you Morning Call Express. So Scott, we have futures opening pretty mixed today. How do you read this? Is this kind of a healthy digestion after Tuesday's big rally? Is this a tug of war? We got some profit takers, maybe some people kind of buying into certain stocks into the new year, or are we looking for another leg down at this point?
It's a little bit of everything. At this point yesterday, we had the big gap open, and it didn't really amount to much in the indices. A lot of stocks did act better than the actual indices and on an individual basis. I think today's pause in the futures is no big deal. You know, what you can do as a trader is you could look at yesterday's low of just say the spiders, and then look at also yesterday's high to use that as a gauge for some type of follow-through. And you could also do that with a lot of individual stocks. So I think as long as we hold the majority of yesterday's big gap up, I don't think there's any loss of momentum for the short-term bullish nature.
So before we get into the individual stocks that you were trading yesterday, let's just go to the chart very quickly so we can get a visual idea of what that support's going to be.
So if you take a quick look, I'm going to go over the spiders because a lot of traders trade them, and you can see the nice picture there. If you look here, you know, you had a nice gap open. You know, if you want to take a quick look back at the chart, you have the October low, the November low, the December low. And yesterday, you didn't get like a gap and go like you saw back on December 20th. You saw a gap and do nothing. So if you take a closer look there, you will see, you know, here's the range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at yesterday's low of 127.43. And if it starts to trade into this gap, I'm going to try and buy a dip, and I think that dip could be bought around 126.50. So as long as we hold the majority of this gap here, I think it's fine considering where we came from in December, but you don't want to see it give away the whole gap and lose some of that momentum. And
very quickly, do you think we're going to see some traders getting short on this sort of mixed choppy open, or do you think that trade's kind of not there right now?
You might. A lot of traders tried to short yesterday and they were frustrated. The same way if you tried to position in the spiders, you know, midday, that last 30-minute pull-in, you would net down on your position. But in certain groups and stocks, it was a little bit better. So I think it's a very mixed tape. And on daylight today, when the market's not going nuts, you could find that relative strength and that relative weakness in different groups to see what's going on to trade.
Right, so then what are you going to look at? Because yesterday you said that you were long the Google, the Apple, the JP Morgan, the Bank of America. You were going to look at that first 60 minutes of trading. What did you do, and what are you going to be doing today, especially as we saw that strength from, say, the materials and the financials, whereas the consumer staples like a McDonald's just didn't do very well?
Well, it all depends on your time frame. For me, you know, I've been trying to hold these things for almost 2 weeks, and for those that weren't involved, there were some nice, decent trades in just saying Apple, Google, and some of the banks because they did trade over those 60-minute highs. So I'm going to give you 2 examples real quickly. Apple, we talked about the 410 area. If you look here, it did nudge through. It filled a portion of this gap. On your intraday basis, you had a nice little bull flag here. So you had a big push into 410, and if you were trading it and you were flat, you had a nice $2.50 move up to about 412.5. You want to switch gears with Google. Google actually gave even a better move. Google had a quick move off the open. You know, if you didn't get that when you watched the consolidation all day, as a trader, you could have bought above that high of the morning, which was around 662, and it went as high as almost 669, which is a nice $7 trade into the close. So there was some action for guys sitting tight, sitting long from just say the 636 buy price in Google, and some who don't take that kind of risk. There was some intraday action as well, and the banks actually had the best push all day long.
Right, but then today when you're looking at sort of this mixed choppy open, would you be better off betting on, say, the McDonald's and the MasterCard that did really well in 2011 that didn't do that well yesterday? Because, you know, rotating into the cyclicals and the financials that were beaten up last year and then out of the consumer staples is nothing new. That's a very normal pattern.
It could, but I wouldn't just do it after day one.
Okay.
You know, it's not unusual for them to sell last year's winners, to book it if they didn't want to do it into the close. They want it on the books. But McDonald's bar yesterday was a little bit too big. So if you look here at McDonald's, you will see that this is a very, very potent bar, day to take notice. It's still well above the uptrend that started in October. So I would say for McDonald's, I wouldn't buy just yet. But I would watch this area, which is around 98. This might be a good spot to buy the dip. Or it could get to the 50-day, which is about 95.30. So here's support 1, support 2. I would give this a little bit more time. And, you know, same type of situation with MasterCard.
All right, we're going to be talking more about the financials, materials, as well as MasterCard and McDonald's in the entire morning call. So join us on The Street.